What's good, racing world? This is Matt Dobbs, aka Mr. Matt Racing, here to bring you a new edition of Time Trial Tuesday. And before we get started, I think it's safe to say that these past several days have by far been the most difficult and, in some cases, tear-jerking days that us fans could sit through in a long time. Back on Thursday, Kyle Busch, one of the biggest names in the history of the sport, lost his life due to pneumonia that turned into sepsis. The two-time Cup champion's legacy and lasting impact will never, ever be forgotten in the sport of NASCAR. A lot of tributes came in over at Charlotte Motor Speedway, even at Indianapolis Motor Speedway as well, in the IndyCar Series. So let's just get right into it and see how this weekend turned out. And I'll tell you how it turned out. And I got to tell you, weather was a major, major problem over at Charlotte Motor Speedway especially. Like, all the rescheduling had the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series running first instead of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. The O'Reilly Auto Parts Series was moved to Saturday night after hours of delays. But when it finally got going again, the racing, well, I can't really comment on the racing because the race was over after just 90 laps. Why? Because it was the completion of two stages. Ross Chastain came away the victor. Only 37 green flag laps were run, including the last, 20 plus laps or so were run under caution at the end of stage 2? 15 to 20 laps or something like that. Rain, fog, mist, whatever you want to call it, it just never let up. With that being said, though, what could have been done differently in regards to that race? Honestly, the only other option we had was to have run it on Memorial Day Monday or call an extremely different condition in which we're going to go against the rule of the race is official after the completion of stage 2 or halfway. When that second stage was over, I feel like that race should have been moved to Monday, Memorial Day. It would have been probably the best or last chance possible to get a race in and give the fans the product that they deserve to see. But unfortunately, we didn't go that route. We stuck with the stage 2 ending being the official point of the race. And within just minutes after parking the cars, they called it. I'm not a fan of that personally, but at the end of the day, rules are rules. So what can you do, really? Now let's go to the Craftsman Truck Series. Was run Sunday morning before the Indianapolis 500. Lane Riggs brought the speed in that front row truck, getting the win. But again, that race was also shortened. It wasn't rain though. They went by the adverse conditions clock again. We saw this at Atlanta earlier this year in the Truck Series. My thinking is they went by that because Fox had to cover the Indianapolis 500, which started just a half hour later. But from a TV perspective, I get it. I completely get it. You don't want ratings conflicting with multiple events, especially when you have an event like the Indianapolis 500 coming up. Like, I totally get it. Everyone wants to watch the 500. But from a perspective of a NASCAR fan and anybody who watches the Craftsman Truck Series, I would agree with what Caden Honeycutt said after the race was over. If we're racing towards a clock, we shouldn't be racing. Like, I couldn't agree more with that statement. You're given a certain race distance. And from my understanding, I just think the race should only be shortened if something major happened that didn't involve a clock. If weather shortens the race, so be it. But we're not supposed to be running to a clock. You're taking away product from the fans in attendance and fans of the series. All to please the TV bosses. Again, I get it from that perspective. But overall, shortening a race by a clock, that's not right. I'm sorry. I don't care how we look at it. That is not right. Now, let's go to the Indianapolis 500. The aforementioned Indianapolis 500 that started right after the trucks race. They made a touching tribute on lap 18 of that race as they did a silent lap in honor of Kyle Busch. Busch had won the Brickyard 400 twice in 2015 and 2016. So the name that he made in the sport of racing, as well as at that racetrack, it makes perfect sense. And plus, shout out to Romain Grosjean for running Kyle Busch's number 18 font on his car for this race. That was pretty cool. I really liked that a lot. But at the end of that race, it was Felix Rosenqvist making history with the closest margin of victory in the history of the 110 runnings of the Indianapolis 500, beating out David Malukas in the final 100 feet to do so. How did he pull that off, is my question. Because he was running side by side with his teammate Marcus Armstrong for that whole one-lap shootout at the end. They took the green and white, Malukas makes them pass for the lead, and then Rosenqvist just runs side by side with his Meyer-Shank Racing teammate for a whole lap. And yet, when they got off turn 2, the side-by-side car started catching Malukas. Like, how's that even possible? Isn't that supposed to affect the air or something like that? Like, that's unbelievable to me. Rosenqvist then clears Armstrong through turn 4 and then drives up to Malukas and makes the move. I didn't think that was possible. The aerodynamics should have slowed those cars down enough for Malukas to go get that victory. But I guess it just goes to show that the draft really means something at that racetrack in that series. And now let's go to the Coca Cola 600 in the NASCAR Cup Series. I mentioned tear-jerking as tributes to Kyle Busch. Well, what they did in the pre-race definitely did just that. A moment of silence for Busch. The family was there, and they played Amazing Grace on the bagpipes. And on top of that, they did the missing man formation. The same thing that the series did for Dale Earnhardt back in 2001 at Rockingham. Tyler Reddick giving up that pole position for the missing man formation. Just absolutely incredible showing of respect by the Cup Series drivers. Then when the race finally got going again, we ended up with an upset. The racing itself was great, but Daniel Suarez pulls off a 2-tire strategy towards the end of that race, as it was known that more rain was on the way. And then not once, but twice, holds off charges from Christopher Bell and Denny Hamlin, as the caution would come out just a lap or two into green flag racing because of weather-related instances. And then after just a couple of minutes, NASCAR called the race in Suarez's favor. So needless to say, that was quite a gutsy call by Daniel Suarez's team right there. Now, one thing I do want to point out. On one of those last cautions, there was a lightning strike that occurred within 6 miles of the racetrack. By the rule book, anytime you have a lightning strike 8 miles or less away from the racetrack, that mandates a 30-minute stoppage. And if a strike happens again, then the clock resets. We didn't see no such stoppage this time. They just went a lap, opened the pits, people took tires if they needed, and then on top of that, coming to what was the last restart of the night, we were literally on board with Kyle Larson with this one. Another lightning strike occurred, so the lights went back on the pace car. But interestingly enough, they went an extra lap or two, and then they went green. Why? Why? You're practically jeopardizing safety just because your excuse is, oh, it was going away from the racetrack, so we didn't need to stop him. Yes, you did. Absolutely, yes, you did. Like, this is safety we're talking about. What if it wasn't going away from the racetrack? What if it got closer? Or what if it just sat there? We're playing chess with weather. No human wins a game of chess with Mother Nature. Like, I get you're trying to get as many laps finished as possible before the real torrential rain came, but still, that's a safety hazard right there. Now, granted, if they did the stoppage and then the rain came immediately on top of that, the outcome would have been the same with Suarez winning. But still, you got to go by your own rule book here. You're just making stuff up in an effort to get a race in. That's not safe. But overall, NASCAR did make history this weekend. First time in the history of the sport that all three top series races failed to make the full distance. That just shows you how awful the weather was at Charlotte Motor Speedway. But in most of our eyes, especially Rowdy Nation, those were tears falling for Kyle Busch. How'd you guys think about the racing? Did you like the racing product we were given at Charlotte? And how'd you feel about the Indianapolis 500 this year? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like, share this video, leave a comment, follow, subscribe for more content. It's totally free, helps me out, greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the little bell that notifies you when I upload. And then stay tuned for this Friday's Fast Friday as we get ready for Nashville Super Speedway. Until then, I'll see you on the road, and God rest Kyle Busch's soul. He'll be greatly missed.